In the last 30 plus years of this sport, we've seen a few power gyms come and go. We've seen some monstrosities build world champions. Josh came from AKA. We've had American Top Team. We've had Jackson Wink. We've also had the smaller mom and pop type gyms that have built individual superstars. Ilia Topuria famously came from a normal sized gym, became a world champion from that gym, remains undefeated from that gym. He's going up in weight, moving on to the next career at a new weight class, and he left his gym entirely. New coaching staff, new gym, new everything. So the question becomes, do you leave the people who got you there, or do you continue to work your way forward? Are you going to be who you once were, or do you need to evolve past where you came from? My name is Angelo. This is Josh Thompson, and welcome to Bad Takes. Josh, you were at AKA for a very, very insanely long time. Did you ever consider leaving? Was it like, I'm too good for this place, I got to get better, I need obviously cross training and stuff like that? But like, what's your take on people who are like, while successful, mind you, I understand you lose, you want to blame everybody, those are your own insecurities, but while being successful, leaving and just starting fresh, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? What's your take on all that?
Well, I think every situation is different. My take, you asked me, did I ever think about leaving AK?
Yeah,
actually,
I asked you about 9 questions in 5 seconds.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. And so, no, I did think about leaving AK a couple times, and I wanted the focus to be more around me, and it wasn't at the time. And so I was thinking of leaving to go to Extreme Tours because it was blowing up, over on the in Vegas. And then as I spent time there, I was like, okay, this really isn't for me either. And it just felt like home. AKA was always going to be home. Javier's said this multiple times on multiple platforms, is, I'm the reason why we have an AKA team. In the beginning it was Frank Shamrock and Javier Mendez, and then it became BJ Penn, myself, Mike Swick, and a couple other guys, But I was the very first guy that he trained, that I was able to convince him to start training the other guys. Start training, the Trevor Prangleys and the John Fitches and the Josh Koscheck's. And, a lot of those guys had their own like Mitt guy and this and that. But I said, look, you got to jump in and start working with these guys a little bit. A pointer once a week, spending some time with them once a week, whatever it is, it'll make a big difference. And once he did that, you saw a huge jump in our team from Cain Velasquez to DC to myself, everybody. I was getting all of the attention in the beginning when I was first signed by the UFC with Javier. And then as time went on, I was able to convince him to start working with the other guys in our gym because they were I could see a little bit of that like animosity was like kind of like being pushed on me. Like this guy, like, what the fuck? And this is his gym. We're repping your gym and you're not helping us. And I was like, it's causing a problem. It's not a good position for us to be in. And I go, look, you have so much knowledge. Just giving them pointers when they're sparring, just helping them a little bit here, do this, do that. Like, you don't need to hold for every single fighter, but you need to have your input. And once he started doing that, he realized it wasn't as much work as he thought it was going to be. Like, he thought every single fighter wanted to have him hold every single night. And he's like, look, my body's just not going to hold up for that. So, then he started picking and choosing the guys he wanted, but he was there on a consistent basis, and it makes a huge difference. That's when I was trying. That was like when I encouraged him to start working with everyone. But as time went on, they all started taking up a lot of time, and I started going, okay, maybe it's not here. Maybe this is not for me anymore here. And I started looking around. I realized no one really had it better than me where I was. I had a great coach. I had Bob Cook as well, was there at the time. I had great training partners. My life was there. I was in California. I was born and raised in San Jose. I left for high school, and stuff, and I came back. But most of my life was spent in San Jose, and all my family was there. Everything, that's the most difficult thing with Ilia Topuria. I think it was a geographical thing. Like, he wanted to live in one location. His coach is like, I'm not going to be doing traveling back and forth.
4-hour drive.
Yeah. He's like, it's just not going to work for me. As a coach though, too, you've built somebody, people know that you've built them, and now your business is probably thriving. If you lose Topuria, it hurts a little bit, it does sting. Like, I helped build you, but the reality is, like, your family is here and my family's here and my life is here. Your life is there. Those are hard decisions to make, a lot of, and 4 hours is one of those things. It's not like you just can't just jump on a plane. You're going to spend more time at the airport than you will actually in the flight.
Yeah. That's probably the cutoff. When I travel for work, 4 hours is the cutoff. If it's 6, I'll fly. If it's 4, it's like, I guess I'll just drive.
Yeah, it's because you spend 2 hours at the airport, and then by the time you get on the plane and get off the plane, it literally is the same. It's the same. So you might as well just drive. That's kind of our downtime for our mental health and stuff for men, right? But Ilia
Well, my wife drives, so
that's right. Jeez, I'm so embarrassed to say that. I know you. It really comes down to, does Ilia Topuria, how does it affect him mentally not having your coach in your corner and on the daily grind? Just the person that feeds into your brain a little bit and goes, hey, everything was good today. Our sparring wasn't as good as we wanted it to be. We got to make a tweak here and a tweak there. You're getting hit with this. Those adjustments come from a place of trust. You trust that guy who got you where you were. How will that be different when now that you're facing bigger guys who hit hard, who hit harder than the guys at 45? And how does that going to affect you in the back? There was one fight that I didn't have Javier in the back, and it was a very weird feeling. It was just strange. And luckily I was able to get the win, but it was a fight that I just like, man, this isn't how it should be.
The whole vibe feels different. Yeah,
it does. It does feel different. So yeah, I wouldn't have suggested him doing this, based on like I said, the vibe is different. It's no different than when a fighter leaves one promotion, goes to the next. It doesn't feel like home yet. It's like, there's all these new employees that work for the UFC, or all these new employees that work for Bellator. It doesn't feel like home. You don't feel comfortable yet. It takes 2 or 3 fights. And in this situation, this is weird that he decided to do it now, going up to 55, where everything is different. The power is different. The present, it's a big step. And having that coach that helped groom you from the beginning, I probably shouldn't use that word, grooming.
yeah, great. Yeah, okay.
But having that coach to help build you from the beginning, they know all your flaws. They know where you can be exploited. They know where you need to be on point against your opponent. And so that's what's weird to me. And always that first fight is always the most difficult one, because you got to, that first fight in another weight class, or that first fight in a new promotion, it's always the hardest. And the first fight without your coach, your real coach that you've had from the beginning, it's always the most difficult one. This is a big step all at once.
Yeah, and he has talked about, and who knows what happened behind closed doors, right? It seems like it was an amicable split, and he just literally was like, hey, I live in Madrid now. The gym's 4 hours away. He basically said for the Max Holloway camp, it was my brother and one other guy. We basically were already doing this anyway. Now, so who knows, right? Maybe it's all true, and he just made an announcement, and they were kind of running this operation this way to begin with. But to your point, it is a drastic change. It's a big change in a big moment in his career. It's not just another title defense. It's not just this is a big moment in his career. He's going up in weight. There's a lot of different things. I imagine you would run your camp a little differently. Or maybe, you tell me, do you run your camp differently because it's a different weight class, or is it all the same minus the weight cut? You just do everything else exactly the same.
I run my camp exactly the same because the whole team is on the same schedule as we are. So we train at 10 a.m. You're done with 10.
No, I mean, because it's a new weight class. I'm saying it's a new weight class. So do you do everything you were going to do if it was the same weight class and you just don't cut weight, or are you preparing differently because they are bigger guys and they should hit harder and they should be stronger?
Well, he should have been preparing differently before he decided to tell everyone he was moving up. He should have been like, okay, look, after I got the Max fight, he should be lifting. He should be putting the weight on properly. He should be training like as if he's in camp right now to make sure that the muscle he's putting on is muscle that he can carry throughout a 5-round fight. So we're going to find out, because this is a pretty quick transition. We saw with the Max Holloway situation where he thought he could fight Dustin at 155 and didn't put the weight on properly, and it backfired. He didn't look like the spry, Max Holloway we saw at 45, just piecing dudes up and movement and all that. Like, he didn't look that way. And I'm sure Dustin had a lot to do with that, the way he fights. But in this situation, Ilia Topuria is doing a lot, like almost too much, too fast. You're going up in weight. You're literally doesn't seem like you're putting the weight on properly. Like, it's one thing, like we walk around that weight, but we don't train at that weight.
Yeah.
And when we do train at that weight, it's only for about two or 3 weeks of the training camp. And then our weight's down to where we feel really good. If you think you're going to walk around what you walk around at and then fight at that weight class.
Yeah.
No. Like for me, I had to eat in the middle of the night to keep my weight on. Cause I'd go to bed at 174 and wake up 167. You know, I mean, I'd lose 5-6 pounds just sleeping at night. So Topuria, right, being the guy that he's working out hard, he's training hard. How does it affect his body? Like his walk around weight when he's in shape and in camp is probably somewhere around the 50, around the 60 mark. So you got to cut 5 pounds. Okay, cool. Like when you're walking around, like it's probably about 160. He's not a tall guy. So I want to see how this affects him. Like you don't ever feel good coming in with your real walk around weight, like no training or a little bit of training. And, then you come in, you're probably 178. By the time he gets in shape, he's probably about 160, 163. And then he gets ready to start cutting his weight from there, probably to 45. So his body's going to have, it's going to be a lot. It's a lot. No coach, new weight class, a lot to absorb, coming into this fight and switching camps. I don't know, man. I feel like you should have maybe done it after this one.
Yeah, and because we've seen people do it after losing, right? Most recently, we saw Rob Font. He moved up to Canada, or at least moved his training camps to Canada to train with Firas Zahabi and them. And it worked for him, right? He came back, looked a little better, got some youth back, and he extended his career a little bit with a win that I don't think was a win. But we don't see this very often with guys at this level, right? This is not a regional guy that outgrew his gym, so now he's going to go over to American Top Team. This is a very high-level guy who is one of the best in the world, in the conversation for pound, a literal world champion who's winning, left his gym and going up in weight. It does seem like a lot all at once. According to him, he's like, we've been doing this hybrid camp for a little while. It will be interesting to see what happens, frankly, between us girls. I don't know if it matters. I think he's just that much better than Charles. I do not know if it matters. Dude, I enjoy watching Charles Oliveira fights. I appreciate Charles Oliveira.
You don't like
I don't know.
I made a little comment a while back.
I get that reputation.
Guy, and you're like, no, he's not.
He's not good looking. To say he's good looking is absurd. He's not good looking. Like, not even a little bit. Like, you could say he's ugly. Like, he's not a good looking dude.
Really? You can say he's ugly?
Dude, Charles Oliveira is not good, and it's fine. Like, not like he's, it'll work out for him. But so not everybody's good looking like us, Josh. So I appreciate Charles Oliveira and everything he's done. I love watching his fights, and they're always exciting. All those things. I just don't think he's as good as his success indicates. Like, okay, you got knocked down and then was able to beat Gaethje. You got knocked down, was able to beat Poirier. You got knocked down and was able to beat Michael Chandler. And that's the run. And that's a great run. But that's not the new era. That's the old, they're all about to retire era. He lost to Armin. He lost to Islam. And I think he loses to Ilia. So Charles Oliveira is great. That win streak was great. All those things. I just think these younger, faster, stronger, harder hitting guys that are not afraid to go on the ground beat him. And I think that's where we end up. So anyway, that whole thing was to say it is a lot all at once. Change your fight camp, go up and weight, get a belt, a title shot in a new weight class, all that stuff. But I think Ilia is so good that I don't know if it necessarily matters.
I guess we're going to find out. That's why we fight the fight, right? I think Charles is going to give him a hard time. I think that Charles, look, if Charles gets dropped and he's able to jump on him and finish him from the ground and pound, I could see that happening. But outside of that, I don't think you're going to get I think you're going to have Charles going to start to wrestle. Charles is going to get him in positions. And if you go back to what Justin Gaethje said, I think it was Justin. He's like, Charles Oliveira is the hardest hitting guy I've ever been hit by.
Really?
That's what Gaethje said.
Damn.
Yeah. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, like, I rocking Chandler, rocking all these guys. I mean, he gets rocked himself, but then rocks other guys and gets them down and gets submission. So he's not to be overlooked in the striking department either. And I go back to the Eddie Alvarez situation. That guy's been getting dropped every single fight for the last 20 years, but he comes back and he's been world champion multiple times in multiple organizations. He's that guy. And that's what's sad, is that we're losing those guys that are aging out of the sport. And so who are we going to replace them with? That's where we're having a disconnect in the sport right now. And so the guys that are the dogs, the ones that get dropped and come back and fight and battle through and get the wins, there's a little bit of hope. You've got guys like Armand. I know Armand Saruki is making business decisions when it comes like, oh, I'm not going to fight this and that. But man,
trying to fight Patty.
The guy's a true fighter. He's a true fighter. Paddy Pimblett, we're going to see how good he really is, but there's a name there. He's doing everything he's supposed to do. He wants to be active and he wants to fight. You've got other fight. Chimaev to me, Ilia Topuria, those two guys right there, both of them, those are guys you can start to build your promotion around. You just got to have them fight more often, headline big cards, and be the face. Start to make transition to making them the face of the organization. It helps that Ilia Topuria is from Spain. I know he's Georgian, but he's from Spain. It helps that Arman Sarukian, is somebody
Armenian.
you can, Armenian. You could build him up as well. You've got Chimaev obviously being a Chechnyan, I believe, and you can make something, but he trains out of France. It was in Sweden. Like, he's been all around the Europe. So he's very diverse in terms of, like, you can market him anywhere because he's trained everywhere. And you've got fighters you can start to build. Tom Aspinall got the whole UK market. So there's light at the end of the tunnel, but the old guys are holding it all up because they're so damn good, because they're durable and just dogs, and they're not easy to beat. The young bucks have got to step up and start pushing them and stamping their name on. If Ilia Topuria loses to Charles Oliveira, that really hurts.
And yeah, they need him to win because they've already gotten the star power with Charles. And if Charles loses, nobody cares. He's so beloved that people don't care if he loses. It doesn't affect anything. They'll still watch him. Like, you can book another Charles Oliveira fight. But if Ilia loses, we've seen these undefeated, they lose. It changes the whole dynamic of everything.
Because they can't get past the older guys. That's going to be the argument. That's been my argument for the last fucking couple months. These younger athletes, these younger fighters are having a hard time getting past the Dustin Poiriers and the Justin Gaethjes and the Max Holloways. They're having a hard time. And the Volkanovskis, like, they're having a hard time doing it. Think about it. Cyril Gane should have beat John Jones. If he'd have beat John Jones, the whole heavyweight division right now. Yeah. And then Stipe obviously being old and this and that. But, like, guys like Glover, as much as I love Glover, he's super talented. He should have never been the champion at 41 years old.
No.
But he was.
And he almost defended the belt. He was 30 seconds away from defending the belt too.
You know what I mean? So those are things like Glover's the man, dude. Like, I love Glover, but, like, you got guys right now, the old guys, the old dogs that just have too much. They've worked too hard to get there, and they're not easy to get past. I don't want to call them gatekeepers because they've been holding up the gate for a long time. It's like those guys now are going to start whittling themselves out, and the younger generation needs to start picking up the slack in those dog type atmospheres. And I don't know if they can. I don't know if they're willing to. They're out there making business decisions, and that's affecting the sport's growth.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happened. Let us know what you guys think. If Ilia changing camps right now, right before he's about to fight for the lightweight belt, is an issue. If you think it doesn't matter at all. If you think leaving your camp while you're doing well is also an issue. Let us know what you guys think. I'm Angelo. This is Josh Thompson. That was another bad take.